The morning started like any other in Seoul. People went to work. Children walked to school. The sun rose over the Han River, painting the water gold and orange. Commander Park Do-hyun stood at the window of the Space Defense Command building, drinking his coffee and watching the city wake up. Then the sky turned red. Park dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, but he did not notice. His eyes were fixed on the horizon, where massive shapes were pushing through the clouds. Ships. Hundreds of them. They were black and angular, like insects made of metal and hate. They blocked out the sun and cast shadows over the entire city. "Commander!" A young officer ran into the room. His face was white with fear. "We are receiving reports from everywhere. New York, London, Tokyo, Cairo. They are all under attack." Park turned to face his team. The command center was filled with screens showing destruction across the world. Missiles were flying up to meet the alien ships, but they exploded harmlessly against invisible shields. Fighter jets scrambled into the air, only to be cut down by beams of green light. "Get me Kim Yuna," Park said. His voice was calm, even though his heart was racing. A commander could not show fear. Not now. Kim Yuna arrived within minutes. She was the lead intelligence analyst, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She had been tracking unusual signals from deep space for weeks, but no one had believed her warnings. Now, everyone wished they had listened. "They call themselves the Velthari," Yuna said, pulling up data on the main screen. "I have been monitoring their communications. They are insectoid, Commander. A hive species. They have conquered 40 worlds using the same strategy every time." "What strategy?" Park asked. "Overwhelming first strike. They hit hard and fast, destroy military targets and major cities, then demand surrender. Every species they have encountered has given up within the first day." Yuna paused. "They expect us to do the same." Outside, the sounds of explosions grew louder. The building shook as something massive crashed nearby. Park walked to the window again. Half of Seoul was on fire. He could see people running in the streets below, trying to find shelter. Families, workers, children. His phone rang. It was the president. "Commander Park," the president said. Her voice was tired but firm. "The alien fleet has sent a message. They demand our unconditional surrender. They say if we comply, they will stop the attack and allow us to live as a resource colony." Park closed his eyes. He thought of his wife, his daughter. He thought of every person in that burning city below. "What is your decision, Madam President?" There was a long pause. Then the president spoke words that would echo through history. "We do not surrender. Not today. Not ever. Coordinate with whatever forces we have left. We fight." Park ended the call and turned to his team. "You heard the order. We fight." In the skies above Seoul, Lieutenant Lee Tae-woo was fighting for his life. His fighter jet was one of the few still in the air. All around him, his friends were dying. Their planes fell from the sky like burning leaves. Tae-woo fired everything he had at the nearest alien ship. His missiles exploded against its shield, doing nothing. A beam of light shot toward him. He rolled hard to the left, barely avoiding death. "All units fall back." The order came through his radio. "Retreat to secondary positions. This is not a battle we can win in the air." Tae-woo wanted to argue. He wanted to stay and fight until his last breath. But he was a soldier, and soldiers followed orders. He turned his damaged plane south and flew toward the mountains, where hidden bases waited for survivors. Back at command, Yuna was working faster than she had ever worked before. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she decoded alien transmissions. The more she learned, the more she understood. "Commander," she said suddenly, "I think I know why they are so confident." Park walked over to her station. "Tell me." The Valkyrie have a hive mind. They think as one. When they attack a planet, the defending species always surrenders because the pain of loss becomes too great to bear. Their psychology cannot handle continued conflict after such defeat. Yuna looked up at Park. But humans are different. We are individuals. We do not share one mind. When some of us fall, others rise to take their place. You are saying they do not understand us, Park said slowly. I am saying they have never fought anything like us. Every species they conquered gave up when victory seemed impossible. But humans, Yuna smiled grimly. Humans have spent their entire history fighting impossible wars. We never learned how to surrender. The building shook again. The lights flickered. Reports were coming in from everywhere now. Millions dead. Cities destroyed. Governments in chaos. Sir, another officer called out. We have lost contact with Surface Command. The Valkyrie are landing ground forces. They seem to think the war is over. Park looked at the screens, showing alien soldiers marching through the ruins of great cities. The Valkyrie moved with perfect coordination, like ants following invisible trails. They were already setting up processing centers, ready to turn Earth into another conquered world. Send word to all surviving units, Park said. Military, civilian, anyone who can hold a weapon. We are going underground. The bunker networks under the peninsula are still intact. We retreat now, but only to prepare. Prepare for what, sir? The officer asked. Park turned to face his people. These men and women had just watched their world burn. They were tired, scared, and hurt. But in their eyes, he saw something the Valkyrie would never understand. He saw anger. He saw determination. He saw the stubborn human refusal to accept defeat. Prepare for revenge, Park said. The Valkyrie think they have won. They think this war is over. They are wrong. This war has just begun, and they have no idea what they have started. As night fell over the burning Earth, the surviving humans disappeared into tunnels and bunkers and hidden places. The Valkyrie celebrated their easy victory and began planning how to strip the planet of its resources. They did not know that in the darkness below, humanity was already planning their destruction. The aliens had attacked first. They were not prepared for what came next. 3 months had passed since the sky burned. The world above was unrecognizable. Cities lay in ruins. Highways were cracked and empty. The Valkyrie had built their processing centers on the bones of human civilization, extracting metals and minerals to fuel their endless conquest. But beneath the Korean peninsula, humanity was very much alive. Commander Park Do-yoon walked through the underground bunker network, nodding at the men and women who saluted him. The tunnels stretched for hundreds of kilometers, connecting old military bases, subway stations, and natural cave systems. Thousands of people lived here now, soldiers and civilians working side by side. Commander, Kim Yuna fell into step beside him. We received word from the European cells. They destroyed another Valkyrie supply convoy last night. That is the 5th this week. Park allowed himself a small smile. Good. And the Asian networks? Coordinated attacks in Japan, China, and Southeast Asia. The Valkyrie are having to spread their forces thin to protect their operations. This was the strategy Park had developed. They could not fight the Valkyrie in open battle. The alien ships and weapons were too powerful. But they could hit and run. They could sabotage and steal. They could make every day of occupation cost the invaders dearly. In a large cavern that served as the engineering bay, a young man named Baek Sunwoo was bent over a captured alien weapon. His face was covered in grease, and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. But his hands were steady as he carefully opened the device. Sunwoo, Park said. Any progress? Sunwoo looked up with a tired but excited grin. Commander, I think I found something. Come look at this. He led Park and Yuna to a workbench covered in alien technology. The Valkyrie shields are powered by these crystals, Sunwoo explained, holding up a small blue stone. They resonate at a specific frequency. I have been trying to find a way to disrupt that frequency. And? Park asked, and I think I can do it. Sunwoo picked up a small device he had built from human and alien parts. This emitter should create an interference pattern that destabilizes their shields. It will not work on the big ships yet, but ground troops, small vehicles, maybe even fighters. He shrugged. We could actually hurt them. Park put a hand on the young engineer's shoulder. Get some sleep, Sunwoo. Then build me 100 of these. On the surface, Overseer Thren stood in what used to be Seoul's city center. His compound eyes scanned the ruins around him. 3 months. 3 months since the conquest, and still the humans fought. This was wrong. This was not how it was supposed to work. Thren had overseen the conquest of 6 worlds before Earth. Every time, the pattern was the same. Strike hard, break their military, demand surrender. The conquered species always complied. They saw the logic. Fighting was pointless. Acceptance was survival. But these humans refused to accept. Every day brought new reports of attacks. Explosions at mining sites. Ambushes on patrol routes. Communications towers destroyed. His soldiers were becoming nervous, jumping at shadows. Overseer, one of his lieutenants, approached. We have captured another group of rebels. They were attempting to sabotage the water processing plant. Interrogate them, Thren ordered. Find out where their base is. We've lied, Overseer. They will not talk. Even under extreme pain, they remain silent. One of them actually laughed at us before she died. Thren's mandibles clicked in frustration. He had studied the records of every conquered species. None of them had behaved like this. When captured, they talked. When beaten, they submitted. When their cause was hopeless, they surrendered. These humans seemed to have no concept of hopelessness. Deep in the bunker network, Choi Minji was preparing for a mission. She had been a university professor before the invasion, teaching history to young students who dreamed of bright futures. Now she led a resistance cell of 40 fighters. The processing facility in Bazan is lightly guarded tonight, she told her team. The Valkyrie moved troops north to deal with attacks there. This is our window. An Jian, the team's medic, checked her supply bag. She had been an Olympic athlete once, a runner who dreamed of gold medals. Now she ran through battlefields, saving lives instead of winning races. How many guards? Jian asked. 20, maybe 30. We have the element of surprise in Sunwoo's new toys. Minji held up one of the small shield disruptors. For the first time, we can actually kill them. The raid was everything Minji had hoped for. Her team moved through the facility like ghosts, striking fast and disappearing before the Valkyrie could respond. The shield disruptors worked perfectly. Alien soldiers who had felt invincible suddenly found themselves vulnerable. Human bullets tore through their bodies. By morning, the facility was a smoking ruin. Minji's team had lost only 2 fighters. The Valkyrie had lost the entire garrison. When news of the raid reached Overseer Thren, something changed in him. For the first time in his long career, he felt an emotion that the Valkyrie rarely experienced. Fear. He sent a message to the High Command. The human resistance is adapting. They have developed weapons that penetrate our shields. Request additional forces immediately. The response came quickly. Unacceptable losses are your failure, Overseer. The High Command is sending Supreme Commander Vectis to assess the situation. Prepare for his arrival. Thren knew what that meant. Vectis did not assess situations. Vectis ended them. Either the humans would be crushed, or Thren would pay for his failure with his life. In the bunker, Kim Yuna was reviewing intercepted communications when she found something important. "Commander Park," she called out. "I have decoded their psychology reports. The Velthari have been studying us, trying to understand why we keep fighting. What did they learn?" Park asked. Yuna actually laughed. "They cannot understand us at all. Their minds are connected, Commander. They share thoughts, feelings, pain. When part of the hive suffers, all of them suffer. They assumed we were the same, but we are not. No, we are individuals. When my brother dies, I feel grief, but you do not. When your city burns, others feel sympathy, but the pain is not shared directly. The Velthari thought that if they hurt enough of us, the collective pain would break our will." Yuna shook her head. They did not realize that individual pain creates individual anger. Every person they kill creates more enemies, not fewer. Park understood now. The Velthari had conquered dozens of hive-minded or collectivist species. They had never faced billions of individuals, each one capable of independent rage, independent courage, independent sacrifice. "Send word to all cells," Park ordered. "Tell them what we have learned. The enemy does not understand us. That is our greatest weapon." That night, Yuna broadcast a message to every resistance cell on Earth. It was simple, but it spread like fire through the underground networks. "They think they broke us? They are wrong. We are not one mind that can be defeated. We are billions of minds that cannot be stopped. They attacked first. Now we make them pay." In tunnels and caves and ruined buildings across the planet, humans heard the message. Soldiers who had thought themselves alone learned they were part of something larger. Civilians who had hidden in fear found new courage. The Velthari had come to conquer another world. Instead, they had awakened something they could not control. The resistance was not just surviving anymore, it was growing. 6 months after the invasion, the Velthari stopped celebrating their victory. They were too busy counting their dead in the command bunker beneath the Korean peninsula. Commander Park Do-hyun stood before a holographic map of the world. Red dots marked Velthari positions. Green dots marked resistance cells. 6 months ago, the map had been almost entirely red. Now, green was spreading like a slow but unstoppable tide. "Operation Thunder begins at midnight," Park announced to his command staff. "For the first time, we attack on all continents simultaneously. Europe, Asia, Africa, the Americas, Australia. Every cell strikes at the same moment." Kim Yuna pulled up the tactical data. "We have identified Velthari weak points in 37 locations. Power stations, communication hubs, ammunition depots. If we hit them all at once, their response network will be overwhelmed. And our secret weapon?" Park asked Dot from the back of the room. Admiral Oh Jung-won stepped forward. He was an older man with a weathered face and steady eyes. For 6 months, the world had believed the Navy was destroyed. The truth was different. "The submarine fleet is ready, Commander," Admiral Oh said. 43 vessels survived by hiding in the deep ocean trenches. The Velthari never thought to look that far down. "We have been waiting for this moment." Park nodded. For half a year, they had planned, prepared, and bled. Tonight, they would see if it was enough. At a resistance camp near what used to be Gwangju, a young man named Song Hyun-woo was loading his weapon. He was 19 years old. 6 months ago, he had been a university student studying music. Now he was a soldier. The invasion had taken everything from him. His parents, his sister, his friends, his future. For months, he had fought with reckless abandon, not caring if he lived or died. Part of him wanted to die, to join his family in whatever came after. Han Ji-yeon, the medic, sat down beside him. She had noticed how he always volunteered for the most dangerous missions, how he never flinched when bullets flew. How his eyes looked empty even when he smiled. "Hyunwoo," she said gently. "I need to talk to you." "I am fine," he said automatically. "No, you are not. And that is okay." Jian put a hand on his arm. "I know what you lost. Many of us lost everything. But dying is not the only way to honor them." Hyunwoo's jaw tightened. "What else is there?" "Living, fighting, winning." Jian looked at him with eyes that held their own grief. "Your family would want you to survive, Hyunwoo. They would want you to see the day when the aliens are gone and we can rebuild. Dying is easy. Living takes real courage." Hyunwoo did not respond, but something in his expression shifted. For the first time in months, he did not feel the pull toward death quite so strongly. At midnight, the world erupted. In Germany, resistance fighters stormed a Valkyrie communication hub. In Brazil, guerrillas destroyed a mining operation. In Japan, former soldiers sabotaged an alien power station. Across 6 continents, thousands of humans struck at the same moment, and from the depths of the ocean, Admiral O's submarines rose. The Valkyrie had never considered the deep sea. Their scanners did not reach far enough down. When missiles began launching from the water, striking orbital platforms and low-flying ships, the alien commanders were caught completely off guard. In the skies above Korea, Lee Tae-woo led a squadron of rebuilt fighter jets toward a Valkyrie patrol group. His planes were old, patched together from scraps and salvage. But they carried Baek Sunwoo's shield disruptors, and for the first time, they could actually fight back. "All units engage," Tae-woo ordered. The human fighters screamed toward the alien ships. Tae-woo's finger pressed the trigger, and a pulse of energy shot from his wing-mounted disruptor. The lead Valkyrie ship's shield flickered and died. A second later, his missile struck true. The alien ship exploded. "We got one," his wingman shouted. "We actually got one." All across the battle zone, the same scene played out. Human weapons, enhanced with alien technology, finally had teeth. Valkyrie soldiers, who had felt invincible, now felt bullets and bombs. Alien ships that had laughed at human missiles now burned in the night sky. In her bunker, Yunari, the Resistance's best hacker, worked her magic. She was 27 years old and had spent the invasion becoming the most dangerous person on Earth. Not with weapons, but with code. "I am in their network," she announced, her fingers dancing across keyboards. "Uploading the virus now." The virus was elegant and cruel. Udigaris was elegant and cruel. It did not destroy Valkyrie systems. Instead, it created confusion. Friendly ships appeared as enemies on their scanners. Enemy positions were marked as safe zones. For precious hours, the alien fleet could not trust its own information. In the chaos, human forces struck again and again. When morning came, the Resistance had won its greatest victory. 12 Valkyrie ships destroyed. Hundreds of ground troops killed. Multiple facilities captured or demolished. It was the first time in 200 years that the Valkyrie had lost a significant battle. Supreme Commander Vectis received the reports in cold fury. He had come to Earth expecting to clean up the mess left by the incompetent Overseer Thrin. Instead, he found a war that was actually getting worse. "Execute Thrin," he ordered. "His failure has cost us too much." Overseer Thrin did not even have time to plead. 2 guards dragged him away, and moments later, his body was thrown from the command ship. An example to others of the price of failure, Vectis studied the reports with his many eyes. The humans had somehow developed weapons that could hurt his forces. They had hidden military assets that should have been destroyed. They were communicating and coordinating across the entire planet. Most troubling of all, they were getting stronger while his occupation grew weaker. In the bunker, Yuna intercepted Velthari communications and brought them to Commander Park. "They are scared," she said with quiet satisfaction. "For the first time, they are actually scared of us." Park read the translations. The Velthari commanders were arguing about strategy. Some wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to increase troop strength. But the tone was unmistakable. These were not conquerors anymore. These were invaders who were starting to realize they had made a terrible mistake. "We cannot stop now," Park said. "We have hurt them, but they still control the orbit. As long as their fleet is intact, they can destroy us whenever they choose. Then we need to take away that option," Yuna replied. "We need to find a way to fight them in space." It seemed impossible. Humans had barely reached Mars before the invasion. Fighting a space battle against an advanced alien fleet was beyond anything they had ever attempted. But 6 months ago, survival had seemed impossible too. That night, Yuna broadcast another message to the resistance networks worldwide. This one was different. It was not a report of victory. It was a challenge. "We have proven we can hurt them. Now we must prove we can defeat them. The Velthari control the space above our world. That must change. To any scientist, engineer, pilot, or dreamer who has ideas on how to take this fight beyond our atmosphere, we need you. Humanity's survival depends on reaching the stars." The response was overwhelming. From bunkers and hiding places across the planet, brilliant minds began working on the impossible. Because if there was one thing humans had proven throughout their history, it was that impossible was just a word for things that had not been done yet. 8 months after the invasion, Supreme Commander Vectis made a decision that would define the war. If he could not control Earth, he would burn it. The first orbital bombardment hit without warning. A beam of concentrated energy struck the heart of what used to be Beijing, vaporizing everything within 10 kilometers. The second hit Moscow. The third hit the resistance hub in Chicago. In the Korean bunker network, the ground shook like the world was ending. Lights flickered. Concrete cracked. People screamed as sections of tunnel collapsed. Commander Park Do-hyun was in the command center when the ceiling came down. Kim. Yuna heard the explosion from the communications room. She ran through dust and falling debris, pushing past panicked soldiers until she reached the collapsed section. A dozen people were working frantically to clear the rubble. "Commander!" she shouted into the chaos. "Commander Park!" It took 20 minutes to dig him out. He was alive, but barely. His legs were crushed. Blood covered half his face. The medics rushed him to the underground hospital, but Yuna could see the truth in their eyes. Even if he survived, Park would never walk again. She stood in the ruined command center, watching the screams that still worked. More bombardments were happening across the planet. The Velthari were not targeting military positions anymore. They were targeting population centers. Millions of civilians were dying. "We are receiving transmissions from resistance cells worldwide," an officer reported. "They want to know what to do. They are asking for orders." Everyone turned to look at Yuna. She was the highest-ranking officer still standing. The responsibility fell to her. For a moment, fear threatened to overwhelm her. She was an analyst, not a commander. She decoded messages and studied data. She did not lead armies or make decisions that would determine humanity's survival. Then she thought of Park, lying broken in the hospital. She thought of all the people who had died fighting. She thought of what the Velthari would do if humanity surrendered now. "I am assuming command," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Get me a secure channel to our resistance networks. We need to talk." 2 hours later, Yuna addressed the leaders of every major resistance cell on Earth. Their faces appeared on screens around the communications room. Tired and scared, but still fighting. "The Velthari are trying to break us with fire from above," Yuna said. "They believe that if they kill enough of us, we will finally surrender. They're wrong, but they will keep killing until we stop them. How? Asked the European commander. We cannot reach their fleet. We are trapped on the ground while they burn us from orbit. Not anymore. Yuna nodded to Beak Sunwoo, who stepped forward. The young engineer looked exhausted. He had not slept in 3 days, but his eyes were bright with purpose. For 2 months, we have been working on a secret project. We captured several Valkyrie atmospheric ships during the last offensive. My team has rebuilt them. The screens erupted in surprised voices. Yuna raised her hand for silence. The ships are small and limited, she continued, but they can reach orbit. We have 6 vessels, enough for a strike force. It is not much against a fleet of hundreds, but it is something. What about the bombardment? Asked the Asian commander. We cannot launch while they are burning our cities. Admiral O's face appeared on one of the screens. That is where my fleet comes in. We have been saving our best missiles for this moment. If we launch everything we have at their orbital platforms, we can create a window. Maybe 30 minutes before they regroup. 30 minutes to reach orbit, fight through their defenses, and destroy the command ship, Yuna said. I know it sounds impossible, but impossible is all we have left. One by one, the resistance leaders agreed. They had no choice. It was this or extinction. In a bunker near Bizin, Choi Minji was preparing for a different mission. The orbital strike was critical, but someone needed to protect the civilians on the ground. The Valkyrie had landed additional troops to round up survivors. Someone had to stop them. The evacuation route leads through the old subway tunnels, she told her team. We get the civilians out while the Valkyrie are distracted by the space attack. Simple. Han Jian checked her medical supplies. Nothing about this is simple, Minji. No, Minji agreed. But it is necessary. The attack began at sunset. Admiral O's submarines launched every remaining missile at the Valkyrie orbital platforms. The sky lit up with explosions as warheads struck shields and metal. For precious moments, the alien fleet turned its attention away from the ground. In a hidden launch facility in the mountains, 6 rebuilt alien ships rose into the air. Lee Taiwu sat in the lead vessel, his hands tight on the controls. Behind him were the best pilots humanity had left. This is it, he said over the radio. Whatever happens up there, it has been an honor flying with all of you. The ship screamed toward space. On the ground, Choi Minji led her team through a nightmare. Valkyrie soldiers were everywhere, hunting for survivors. The evacuation route was supposed to be clear, but intelligence was wrong. An alien patrol blocked the main tunnel. I will draw them off, Minji said, loading her weapon. Get the civilians through. Minji, no. Jiyoung grabbed her arm. There are too many. You will die. Minji looked at the frightened faces of the civilians behind them. Children, elderly, families, who had survived 8 months of hell. They deserve to live. Then I die doing something that matters, Minji said. She kissed Yan on the forehead. Get them out. That is an order. Before anyone could stop her, Minji ran toward the alien patrol, firing her weapon and screaming to draw attention. The Valkyrie turned toward her, away from the tunnel entrance. Jiyeon wanted to go after her. Every part of her wanted to help her friend. But she had orders, and the civilians needed her. With tears in her eyes, she led them into the darkness of the evacuation tunnel. Behind her, she heard Minji's weapon fall silent. In orbit, the human strike force was fighting for its life. Valkyrie interceptors swarmed around them, firing beams of deadly light. 2 of the rebuilt ships exploded within the first minute. Taiwu pushed his vessel to its limits, dodging and weaving through the enemy fire. The Valkyrie command ship loomed ahead, massive and terrible. Its shields were still active, but Sunwoo's devices could change that. All units target the flagship. Taiwu ordered, fire everything. The 4 surviving ships unleashed their weapons. Shield disruptors hit first, creating ripples of interference across the command ship's defenses. Then came missiles, punching through weakened barriers and striking the hull. But it was not enough. The flagship was damaged but still fighting. Its weapons turned toward the human ships. Taiwu saw the beam charging. He knew he could not dodge in time. He thought of his family, his friends, everyone who had died. Then he thought of everyone still fighting on the ground below. "Sorry, everyone," he said quietly. "Looks like I'm taking the short way." He aimed his ship at the flagship's engine core and pushed the throttle to maximum. On Earth, Kim Yuna watched the battle through intercepted Velthary feeds. She saw Taiwu's ship accelerate toward the enemy flagship. She saw the explosion as he struck the engine section. She saw the massive vessel begin to break apart. "He did it," she whispered. He actually did it. The command ship was dying. Without its coordination, the Velthary fleet fell into confusion. Ships collided. Friendly fire erupted. The remaining human vessels escaped back toward Earth. Yuna activated the global broadcast system. Her voice went out to every radio, every hidden speaker, every resistance cell on the planet. "This is Kim Yuna, acting commander of the human resistance. Tonight, we struck the enemy where they thought they were safe. Tonight, we proved that no one attacks humanity without paying the price. To the Velthary who can hear this, know that this is only the beginning. We are humanity. We do not surrender. We do not forget. And we do not forgive." In bunkers and tunnels and ruined cities across the world, humans heard the message. They heard that heroes had died fighting. They heard that the enemy could be hurt. They heard that hope was still alive. In the underground hospital, Commander Park opened his eyes long enough to hear the broadcast. He smiled weakly and whispered a single word before falling back into unconsciousness. Good. The darkest hour had passed. The dawn was coming. The battle for Earth began on a cold morning, 9 months after the invasion. Kim Yuna stood in the rebuilt command center, watching screens that showed humanity's final gamble. 3 surviving orbital ships, patched and refueled, rose to meet the crippled Velthary fleet. On the ground, every resistance cell prepared to strike. Supreme Commander Vectis watched from his damaged flagship. The human attack on the command ship had killed half his senior officers and destroyed the main engine. His vessel could barely move, but it could still fight. And the Velthary still had numbers on their side. "All ships, target the human vessels," Vectis ordered. "End this." But the humans were not alone anymore. Across the planet, something extraordinary was happening. Civilians who had hidden for months emerged from their shelters. Workers at Velthary processing facilities turned on their overseers. Farmers and teachers and shopkeepers picked up weapons and joined the resistance fighters. In Seoul, thousands of people flooded into the streets, overwhelming the alien garrison. In Paris, civilians blocked roads with burning vehicles while fighters attacked from above. In Cairo, an uprising that started with a single thrown stone became a wave that swept the Velthary from the city. Han Jiang led medical teams through the chaos, saving lives wherever she could. The memory of Choi Minji's sacrifice drove her forward. Every person she saved was a victory over the aliens who had taken her friend. Song Hyun-woo fought beside her. Something had changed in him since their conversation months ago. He no longer sought death. He sought justice. Every Velthary soldier he faced saw not a boy who wanted to die, but a man who refused to let his people be conquered. In the command center, Yunari launched her final cyber attack. She had been building this virus for months, hiding it in the fragments of code she had planted throughout the Velthary network. Now she released it all at once, uploading to their fleet coordination system, she announced. In 30 seconds, they will not be able to tell friend from enemy. The effect was immediate. Velthary ships that had been firing at humans suddenly targeted each other. Point defense systems shot down their own missiles. The fleet descended into chaos. Now, Una ordered. All ground forces, attack. Everything we have. The human counteroffensive hit like a hammer. Months of planning, sacrifice, and preparation focused into a single devastating assault. Resistance fighters struck Velthary positions across 6 continents. Admiral O's remaining submarines launched their final missiles at orbital targets. The 3 human ships in orbit charged directly at Vectis's crippled flagship in the lead vessel. Beek Sunwoo sat at the weapons console. He had never been a soldier, just an engineer who wanted to build things that help people. Now he was helping to destroy the greatest threat humanity had ever faced. Targeting their shield generators, he reported. Firing disruptors. The flagship's shields flickered and died. For the first time, the heart of the Velthary invasion force was exposed. Una watched from the ground, calculating their chances. Prepare boarding teams. We need to take that ship intact if possible. Why? Asked one of her officers. We can destroy it from here, because their commander is on board. And I want to talk to him. The boarding action was brutal and fast. Human soldiers in captured alien armor cut through the flagship's corridors, fighting past desperate defenders. They moved with precision born of months of guerrilla warfare, clearing rooms and securing passages. Supreme Commander Vectis waited in his command chamber. His guards were dead. His fleet was in chaos. His invasion was failing. For the first time in his long life, he faced the possibility of defeat. The door exploded inward. Kim Una walked through the smoke, her weapon raised. Behind her came a squad of the deadliest fighters humanity had produced. Vectis rose to his full height, towering over the humans. His compound eyes studied the woman who had coordinated his destruction. You, he said, his translator rendering his words in flat English. You are their leader. I am one of them, Una replied. We do not have just one leader. That is something you never understood. We have conquered 40 worlds. We have never been defeated. How did you do this? Una looked at the alien commander, this being who had ordered the deaths of millions, who had burned cities and destroyed families, who had tried to break humanity's spirit with fire and terror. Because we had everything to lose, she said simply. And you never understood that. Vectis's mandibles clicked in confusion. That makes no sense. Species that have everything to lose surrender to protect what remains. That is logical. That is rational. Humans are not always logical. We are not always rational. Una stepped closer, her eyes hard. When you threaten everything we love, we do not calculate odds. We do not weigh costs and benefits. We fight. We die. And we keep fighting until there is nothing left to fight with. That is madness. Maybe, but it is human madness. And you attacked us first. Vectis saw his death in her eyes. He reached for a concealed weapon, making one final attempt to take his enemies with him. Una shot him before his hand moved an inch. The supreme commander of the Velthary invasion fell to the deck, dead. On the screens around her, Una watched the Velthary fleet retreat. Without their commander, without coordination, facing enemies who refused to stop fighting. The invaders finally accepted what humans had known from the beginning. They had lost. 1 year later, Kim Una stood on a stage before the first meeting of the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from a dozen species had come to Earth, all of them former victims of Velthary conquest. They had heard stories of the human resistance. They wanted to understand how a primitive species had accomplished what their advanced civilizations could not. Commander Park Do-hyun sat in the front row, his wheelchair decorated with medals he never asked for. Han Jian stood behind him, along with Beek Sunwoo, Yunari, Admiral O, and the other survivors. On a memorial wall behind the stage were the names of those who had not survived. Lee Taiwu, Choi Minji, and millions of others who had given everything for humanity's freedom. "You ask us how we won," Yuna said, her voice carrying across the assembly. "The answer is simple. We refused to accept defeat. When they burned our cities, we hid underground and planned revenge. When they killed our leaders, new leaders arose. When they thought they had broken our spirit, we showed them what human spirit truly means." She looked at the alien representatives. Their strange forms and stranger eyes all focused on her. "We are not special. We are not stronger or smarter than any of you. We simply refuse to die." And that, in the end, was enough. After the assembly, Song Hyun-woo was asked to give his own address. The young man who had once wanted to die now stood as a symbol of human resilience. He spoke quietly, but every word reached the far corners of the hall. The Valkyrie thought they understood war. They thought victory came from superior weapons and overwhelming force. But they never understood that the most powerful weapon is not a ship or a bomb. It is the will of a person who has decided they will not surrender. He paused, thinking of his family, of all the families that had been lost. "My people have a saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8. The Valkyrie knocked us down. We got back up. They knocked us down again. We got back up again. And we kept getting up until they had nothing left to knock us down with." Hyun-woo looked out at the assembly, at the representatives of species who had suffered under Valkyrie rule, who were now looking to Earth for hope. You can do the same. It does not matter how many times you fall. What matters is that you keep standing up. That night, across a rebuilt Seoul, humans celebrated their survival. Fireworks lit the sky. Music filled the streets. Families who had lived in fear for almost 2 years finally felt safe again. In a quiet corner of the celebration, Kim Yuna sat with the survivors of the resistance. They drank to fallen friends and shared stories of battles won and lost. They were tired and scarred, but they were alive. "What happens now?" Sung-woo asked. Yuna looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the remnants of the Valkyrie fleet were limping home to report their failure. Other species were hearing stories of Earth's resistance. The galaxy was changing. "Now we rebuild," she said, "and we make sure this never happens again. To us or anyone else." Park raised his glass from his wheelchair. "To humanity. To humanity," the others echoed. They had been attacked first. They had paid a terrible price. But they had survived, and they had won. Not because they were the strongest or the most advanced, but because they refused to give up. The stars above seemed a little less frightening now. Earth was no longer just a small world on the edge of the galaxy. It was a world that had proven what was possible when ordinary people refused to accept the impossible. The aliens had come to conquer. They found something they never expected. They found humans.